here around, at least virtually. Now we move forward to the last cultural activity of U21 Health Sciences Group Annual Meeting 2021, Prevention, Wellbeing, and Longevity, introducing Mezcal tasting. Enrique Tamez, Dr. Enrique Tamez, is Human Flourishing Project Director, an expert in Mezcal. He will give you a virtual tour of the essence of Mezcal, way to drink it, how to flavor it, how to choose a brand, and of course, the artisanal experience of taste. In this way, you can appreciate the flavor, the color, the aroma, the spirit of tasting Mezcal. To begin with this session, I am going to introduce our speaker. Enrique Tamez is a philosopher with a master's degree in education and a PhD in innovation. The former dean of the School of Humanities and Education at Tecnológico de Monterrey. Enrique Támes was also a regional vice-rector at University Tecmilenio and director of the Institute of Happiness and Wellbeing. During his career, he has researched and publishing a variety of areas, in addition to doing research in Latin American cultural values. He has spent a great deal of his career developing our understanding of the impact of aesthetics, contemporary art, technology, and education on society. His most recent topic of interest is understanding well-being and happiness from a philosophical approach in today's world. He has been visiting researchers at the Getty Institute, the University of Loyola in Chicago, as well as a visiting professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and at Yale University also. In 2013, he developed and taught the course Latin American Cultural Values, a MOOC for more than 4,000 students worldwide. Enrique is certified coach and is certified on Appreciative Inquirer, as well as alumni of Singularity University. Enrique is a photographer. He has participated in solo and collective expositions. He promotes the understanding of the cultural heritage of Mezcal and practices meditation on a daily basis. So we give a warmest welcome to Enrique Tamez. The audience is all yours, Enrique.
Thank you very much, Maggie, for this introduction, and thank you very much for Jorge Valdez and his invitation. I accepted this invitation because Jorge promised me that next year this event is gonna be live and that we're gonna repeat this tasting, but with all of you face to face on 3D. So Jorge, I expect that you keep up to your promise, please, because it's not the same thing that, you know, in a computer, we do these kind of activities that as we should be doing it as God demands, my mother would say. So I was just kidding. Thank you very much for this invitation. I understand that you have been together for this is the third day. So I hope you had a great event. This is the last day. And in Mexico, we are starting a 48-hour holiday, kind of. We are celebrating, starting in the evening, our independence. So it's a huge holiday. So as we say in Mexico, Viva Mexico. So this is a great day for us to have this Mezcal tasting that is kind of a Mezcal tasting, but not really, but kind of. So, and I don't know what time of the day is it where you are. If you're in Monterrey time, so it's noon. And in my case, I have still some work to do later in the day. So I'm kind of going to do a fake tasting. I'm sorry to admit that, but again, I have work to do. So, well, today everything is fake, right? So I guess it doesn't matter, but I will explain in a very serious way a lot of things around Mezcal. But before I jump into the topic, I would like to say a couple of very serious things. First of all, I hope all of you are taking care. I mean, talking to who I'm talking, I shouldn't say this, but I am saying this. I hope you are taking very good care of you, of your loved ones in these very difficult times that we are still living. Second, this is an adult talk speech. So any of you that have kids around, just be aware, please, that I'm talking to you and to no others. Third, there is no commercial message on what I will be talking today. So I'm not branding, I'm not selling anything, I'm not putting one brands above any others. So be aware of that as well. We are just having a nice time, a nice chat around mezcal. And finally, and very important for me, I have a huge respect for alcoholic beverage in general. And please, my words shouldn't be an invitation to get wasted in any kind of way around alcohol. An immature way to approach alcohol has caused serious consequences to our world today. And we should all take a lot of care anytime we consume alcohol. Personally, I deal with my father that was alcoholic, and it didn't start well, it didn't end well. And for me, it is, and I'm sure that you have very close stories that you can tell that didn't end well. So for me, even though alcohol comes in my life as a very difficult matter, I try to take it in a different approach and understand that also there's a way of approaching this topic in a very sensitive and meaningful and beneficial way, that is understanding the cultural heritage of alcohol from a historical perspective. And in that way, I have found matters of how we can understand the importance of something so beautiful as I hope I can transmit to you at the end of this speech. So this is what I wanted to transmit to you, and I will start my presentation. Let's see. I'm gonna share. Can I share?
You wanted to share it, or I will share it for you? As you wish.
Let me share it.
Okay.
So,
no problem.
so I can't. I don't have to say next and next and next. So if you let me share it, that would be great.
Okay, it will be ready.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay. 1 minute, please. Now let me switch. Okay, are you seeing my presentation? Can you confirm it, please?
Yes, perfect, Enrique.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, we're gonna be doing some tasting. But most of all, I'm gonna be explaining a lot of things around mezcal. Mezcal has been part of Mexico's life and history and tradition in a very meaningful way, and we're gonna be talking a lot about that. So, what will be the order of the day? We're gonna be talking about a little bit about background and references. We're gonna be talking about how to taste mezcal, a little bit about history, a little bit about production, a little bit about types of mezcal, and finally, a little bit about social responsibility. Most of the 90% of the pictures that we're going to see are pictures taken by me that have copyrights and all the stuff. And we're going to see a lot of pictures about the plant of mezcal. Some of you are Mexican, some of you are not. So maybe some of you don't know the beautiful plant of the mezcal, of the agave, that grows all across Mexico and in many other countries. So a little bit about the background. In 2010, Mexican cuisine was named a cultural treasure by United Nations. This didn't come as a surprise for Mexico because we love so much our cuisine as a tradition. We are gluttons. We love to eat and we love to appreciate what we eat, and we spend many hours in the kitchen and not only eating but also preparing. And I think this is valid also in many parts and many cultures of the world. One way to understand a country when we visit it is to understand its food and understand the place of the food in their culture. I'm lucky enough, and maybe a lot of you, to travel to places where if we get a deep dive into what they eat and how they eat and what they talk and what they do while they eat and they cook, we get a very, again, deep sense of what that culture is and what are those values, their values. And it's a beautiful way of traveling, I think. So in Mexico, again, it is no surprise that it is the food and the beverages as well is a very important part of our history and our culture. And in the world, we are known by our beers. I'm sure all of you have tasted at least once, and maybe you prefer one of our famous international branded beers, even though we have beautiful and delicious artisanal beers. And I'm sure all of you also have tasted tequila. Unfortunately, maybe most of you have tasted tequila the Hollywood way. And what I mean by the Hollywood way is that you take a shot at it, and this is not the way to taste tequila. And in a moment, I will explain how to taste tequila. But you have tasted tequila. And lately, in the last maybe 15, 20 years, mezcal has become a thing, a fashion, in not only in Mexico, but in the world. And in a moment, I will explain if tequila and mezcal are the same or different things. So everybody has heard what a sommelier is, or a master sommelier. That is a salesman, a wine expert, and a qualified taster who can pass on his or her knowledge to colleagues. And not many know, but as sommeliers, there are also mezcaliers or master mezcaliers that do exactly the same, but for mezcales. And I like to show this, not to brag, but just to show that, because many people, including Mexicans, don't know that they're also mezcaliers, people with the knowledge to explain what we are about to do right now. And it's a very hard process. I mean, it's not like you jump into a online internet test and you got the certification. No, it's a process that can take, it took for me a little bit less than a year, but it can take you up to 2 years to get these certifications, and it's certified by the Mexican government. Again, it's not an easy task. You need a lot of studies, and you have to do some trips, and a lot of people in the process test you in order to get the certification. But once you get it, then you're ready to do lots of fun things, and most of all, to explain and to teach and to profess the importance of mezcal in our culture. So, because we don't have much time, we have maybe less than an hour, I would like to give some references. So if you want to go deep into the knowledge of mezcal, there's a lot of literature outside, but I wouldn't recommend a lot of them because, again, mezcal is a fashionable thing right now. And some of the things I read are not that much knowledgeable. There's a lot of misunderstandings because of that, because it's fashionable right now. A lot of people are talking about it with not necessarily knowing about mezcal, but I would strongly recommend these pair of books that you can find in Amazon. Tom Bullock and Emma Jansen have done extraordinary research to show these written in English books about mezcal. And there's also this magazine, well known in Mexico, but you can order it through Amazon worldwide, that is called Artes de Mexico. A lot of these publications are also in English. So there's a special issue dedicated to mezcal, and a couple of others dedicated to the seas of Mexico and also to the plants, sacred plants of Mexico. And they're beautiful, beautiful magazines dedicated to mezcal. So you can see that, and also their web pages. One of them, an organization dedicated to the qualification of the mezcal, another one promoting the culture around mezcal, Conavio, that is a government agency, the Conservatorio de la Gastronomía Mexicana, that also does a very good job promoting mezcal, and the ministry, finally, the Ministry of Education, that also has its evaluation or certification center that certifies the master mezcalier stuff that I just mentioned before. Okay, so let's jump right into topic. How to drink mezcal. That this, for the ones that don't have mezcal aside of you, it works for all types of distilled spirits. It works for brandy, for rum, whiskey, gin, vodka. For many beverages, it works what I'm going to explain following. So, sensing mezcal, it's not only about tasting. It's not only about flavors. It's about looking at it. It's about feeling it, sensing it, tactile. It's about smelling it. And it's about defining all this sensing experience. So visually, what do we want to find when we see at the mezcal? When we look at the different kinds or types of mezcales, we can see transparency, we can see different types of tones, of density, we can see the different types of pearls. And what do I mean by pearls? This is a nomination that is used also in different kinds of alcoholic beverages. Pearls as in the size of the bubbles that are produced when we agitate the beverage. So in the case of mezcal, you want to look at the size of the bubbles and how much time the bubbles last. And this is a way of people with knowledge, and they have a lot of knowledge, know how good the mezcal is. But visually, the mezcal also is about brightness, and it's also about sediments. There are mezcales that you can see in the bottom of the bottle, like some types of wines. For those who know about wines, you are also looking at what's in the bottom of the bottle. So that is visually. But mezcal is also about feeling, as you can see in a moment while we're going to taste the mezcal. Tactile is about mezcales that are more watery or some that are more oily. And once we do that, now we can talk about aromas and we can talk about flavors. So what are the flavors? I'm sure a lot of you have been like in a wine tasting where sommeliers use these very sophisticated ways of explaining how a wine tastes. So they start talking about woods and spices and all these things. Well, sommeliers are not the only ones that use these words. Also in the mezcal world, we will find all these words that we start to identify once we taste the mezcal. We can taste cooked maguey, we can taste smoked, we can take woods, spices, we can taste mud, as we will see in a moment when we talk about the production of the mezcal. There's a muddy part of the production, and that's why we can pick up this flavor. Humidity, fermented, astringent, floral, sweet, herbal, fruity, dairy, mineral, acetone. We can feel all those flavors once we taste it. But also the aromas, that is a little bit different of the flavor. And the aromas, we can feel the alcohol. We shouldn't, but we can smell the alcohol. We can smell the animal farms involved. We can smell seeds, how do you say resins? Receipts? Citrics, sour, bitter, earthy, roots, olives, coffee, chocolate, chilies, salty, or metal. All that you can smell, as we will see in a moment in the production. Mezcal is produced in a very artisanal way. So it's very complex, and all these flavors and aromas can appear once you taste the mezcal. So now let's talk about the 4 steps to drink the mezcal: the smelling, the wash, the kiss technique of drinking it, that is totally opposite of the, as I called a moment ago, the Hollywood way of drinking, that is through a shot. And finally, the breathing. I'm gonna stop the presentation for a moment so that you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm gonna serve myself a little bit of mezcal. I'm joking. So let's see. First of all, I'm going to smell the mezcal. And how am I going to smell it? I'm gonna smell it not directly in the glass, but I'm gonna take with my finger a little bit of mezcal, and I'm gonna rub it in my hand. And I'm gonna do a little bit of this so that the alcohol goes away. The alcohol smell, because it shouldn't smell as alcohol. And then I will smell it. So I repeat it. I take a little bit with my finger. I wet it. I rub it in my hand. And then I smell it. And with that, I start to identify the list of aromas that I mentioned before. I can smell citrics, I can smell sour, I can smell something earthy, I can smell roots, olives, coffee, chocolate. It depends a lot in some of the variables I'm going to explain in a moment. Okay, that's the way of smelling it. Once I smell the mezcal, very, very important, I need to clean my mouth. What for? Again, I don't want to taste the alcohol. I know it's counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. Alcoholic beverages shouldn't taste like alcohol. And there's a very effective method to eliminate the flavor of the alcohol. How do you do it? You wash your mouth. How do you wash it? Like you wash your mouth every night when you use your mouth washing, how do you call that? The
mouthwash.
Mouthwash, that's the name of it? Thank you, Mildred. Mouthwash. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show it to you with the same mezcal. Yeah, the gargles, thank you. So you take the same mezcal and just remember that taste doesn't count because it's gonna taste horrible. I guarantee you it's gonna taste horrible. So the one thing you wanna do is take a little sip and throw it all over your mouth for approximately 30 seconds. And you have to keep it there. It's not gonna feel nice. It's gonna feel very itchy. It's gonna hurt. It's your tongue, it's gonna feel, you're gonna feel nauseous. It's gonna be horrible, but just do what I'm doing right now.
Really tastes bad. Ah, qué feo.
It's like 30 seconds. Again, and you're gonna feel all sleepy, and it's gonna taste horrible. And we're gonna wait for a minute until all this tasting experience goes away from the mouth. And what's happening? What's happening is that our tasting cells, is that the correct way to name it? I shouldn't be talking to you guys. I feel intimidated. So what's happening in your mouth is that your tasting cells is recognizing the flavor of the alcohol and eliminating it. So that once we taste the alcohol, once we taste the mezcal, we're gonna be tasting all the flavors not related to the alcoholic flavor. Again, this applies to any kind of alcoholic beverage, especially the distilled beverages. So once you're ready, now we're going to go to the kiss technique. What is the kiss technique? The country of the shot. What do you want to do? To give a little kiss to your mezcal. How do you do kisses? So a sweet kiss, please. A sweet kiss, you give it like this. Okay? You want to bring a little sip. Don't do it yet. You want to bring a little sip inside your mouth, and you're gonna do the following technique. That is the last step of the drinking process. That is to breathe. You're gonna listen from any kind of sommelier, mezcalier, tequilarier, whiskyier, whoever. You're gonna listen to the same explanation. Breathing is fundamental to savor all the experience of what you're tasting. So I'm gonna explain it twice, and then I'm gonna do it so you can follow me, okay? So what I'm gonna do is put the mezcal with a kiss in my mouth, breathe in, swallow it, and breathe out, all with my mouth closed. Closed, obviously, after I drink the mezcal, obviously. So I explain it again. I'm gonna kiss my mezcal, drink it, breathe in, swallow it, and breathe out. Breathe out, breathe in and breathe out with my nose and with my mouth closed. I'm gonna do it with an exaggeration so you can see it clearly, okay? So I'm gonna do it. Got it? Explain it again. I'm gonna drink it and close my mouth. Breathe, swallow, and breathe out. And it's with the breathe out where you're gonna sense all the complexity of the flavors of the mezcal, or the complexity of the tequila, or if you have a whiskey, or if you have a vodka, or if you have anything, if you have a sake. With the sake, it's beautiful. Mainly with the dry sake. You have beautiful experiences with the dry sake. So whatever you have in your hand, if you want to try it and taste it, and if you're going to celebrate Mexico independence later on the day, please do it so. Okay, I'm going to continue with the presentation. Okay, thank you. So, a little bit of history. Was mezcal part of Mexican history from pre-Hispanic times before the Spanish arrived to Mexico? The short answer is that we don't know. There are some historians that say that mezcal was part of pre-Hispanic cultures. There are historians that say no, it was when the Spaniards arrived to Mexico that brought the distillation process, and then the mezcal appeared. And what we had was fermented beverages. We do know that we had, for sure, fermented beverages before the Spanish arrived. We know we had pulque. For those of you that haven't tried pulque, I strongly recommend that you don't try pulque outside of Mexico, because I'm sure you won't be trying real pulque. And if you are in Mexico, don't buy pulque in a store, because it won't be pulque. And try to be in a very local, in a very off the road place if you want to drink real pulque, because pulque is not commercialized, and what is commercialized, it's not the real deal. So we do know that pulque was there. We have pictures. We have I mean, not pictures, paintings. We have some codices that refer to pulques, and in the religious ceremonies, there was combination for the priests that were the only ones allowed to drink alcoholic beverages, a combination between pulque and some mushrooms. So that would give, imagine the experience, very lost highway experiences for the priests. But we're not sure about, we can affirm, but we can't deny that we had mezcal. The truth is that we don't know. What we do know is that once it started to exist, mezcal, for almost all its history, mezcal was the beverage of the very poor people. It is not until very recent years, and by recent, I mean the last 25 or 30 years, mezcal started to be consumed by middle class or upper class. Before that, it was the poor of the poor, meaning farm people, meaning mine people. The miners were the people that would drink mezcal. And if you weren't part of these very poor people, drinking mezcal would be very bad for your reputation. Today, we know about a little bit more than 200 species worldwide. And by world, I mean basically America. But besides those, part of those 200, 150 are native, endemic from Mexico. And around 40 we can use to make mezcal. Maguey and agave are the same word, only agave is the Greek word for maguey. Maguey is a Mexican word, agave is the Greek word, but I'm talking about exactly the same thing. Some years ago, 20 years, we thought there were around 60 or 70 different types of agaves to make mezcal, but they have come down to 40 because the scientists have come to realize that they were the same plant, but with different names, different parts of Mexico. So the number has come down in the last few years to around 40, 45 different species to make mezcal. Maguey is also used for different things, not only for making mezcal, it is used for other types of drinks. It is used for textiles, for sweetener. I know today it's part of a trend for healthy food to use maguey sweetener, but very recently I have read by very good sources that the agave sweetener is not that healthy. So I strongly recommend that you medical doctors and scientists read again the sources, because what I have read is that it's not that good as it was supposed to be some years ago. Maguey is also used for fuel and for rigging. Not all species of agave can be domesticated, can be cultivated. There are some like Tobala that it's very difficult to cultivate, and the cultivation of agave might take some of them 5 years, some of them up to 25 years. So people, colleagues, please, when you see a bottle of mezcal that costs maybe $100, maybe $200, there might be a reason for this. Imagine the farm people waiting for 20 years to harvest. 20 years. I mean, there are places where to harvest corn, you can harvest corn twice a year. To harvest a maguey, it can take 20 years. So imagine the costs for that. Is tequila and mezcal the same thing? Basically, it is. Actually, the tequila is a type of mezcal. And the reason why they have different names is because tequila had a different beginning. It started as a different appellación in 1978, and it became industrialized way before mezcal that became an appellación in 1995. Today, we know that tequila is processed in an industrialized way so that it can keep up with the demand nationally and internationally. And the people that are part of the mezcal industry don't want this to happen in the mezcal area. So the production in mezcal is not industrialized. This means that there are not many machines in the process. We try to keep it as artisanal as we can. So the production is not that high. But that means that each mezcal that you taste has a different flavor. Different as tequila, where you taste one tequila and the same brand will taste basically the same. This is good for some people and this is bad for other people. So the appellación is not for all the country. It's the same thing that happens for champagne. It's the same thing for other kinds of appellaciones, for cognac. It's only in certain states and even in certain regions of the states where they can produce mezcal. And if in some other state that doesn't have the appellación, if they produce mezcal, it can't be named mezcal. It will receive another name. It can be named destilado de maguey. It can be named that way. Like in Nuevo León, we have a very good destilado de maguey that is called pecho tierra, but it can't be named mezcal. So those are the states. And let's talk a little bit about the production. That it's fascinating. I hope when all this nightmare is over, I really hope we can meet in person and do a little visit to one of these places where they produce mezcal. It's a beautiful, beautiful process where it takes basically 5 steps. First, to harvest. And the farmer in charge of harvesting, on picking when the agave is right, is almost a priest. He is almost a shaman, because he has this mystical knowledge that goes to the plant, talks to the plant, and asks if he is already ready. Because it has to be just before this stick that appears in the picture that I'm noting with my, can you see my cursor? Can you see my little thing? So when this appears, it is called quiote. It's too late because all the juices show up in this quiote, because then the flowers show up here in the top, and then all the bees and all the birds and the bats show up, and then the pollination starts, and it's too late. So before this shows up, all the juices are in the heart of the agave, or as we call it, the piña. And so the farmer has to approach and understand that is just when all the juices come from the leaves and approach the heart of the agave, when that agave is ready. And in that moment has to be cut. And then once he has, like, it depends on the size of the oven that he has, but maybe he can cut 100, 200 hearts of the agave that again are called piñas. Then the cooking process starts. That is also a beautiful process. I'm going to show you pictures in a moment. And then after the cooking process, then becomes the grinding process. That is also a beautiful process. And then comes the fermentation. that is beautiful to watch. It's not beautiful to smell, as you can imagine. And after for the fermentation that comes with natural yeast, and this is one of the main differences between mezcal and tequila, because tequila, because of the industrialization, they want to make this process fast. So it's like with bread. It's a whole difference when you let the natural yeast to make bread, a natural process, different from the industrialized process to make bread. The same thing happens here. You want the natural yeast that is in nature, in the air, to come and inject their thing into the fiber, the pulp, and the juices of the liquid of the agave, so that in this wooden tubs it ferments, and then this liquid comes out, and then you're ready for the final step, that is the distillation, where in this alembic big artifacts that are made, it can be made out of clay or copper or steel. Then comes the final process, and then you can do this process 1 or 2 times, sometimes even 3 times. That's not recommended, because then the alcohol grows too much, but then you have your mezcal ready. So I'm going to show you some pictures of all the process. So okay, I want to take a couple of pictures just of the plant when it's all over, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful the plant is. So when you're in the countryside in Mexico, mainly in the desert, that 70% of Mexico is desert. Many people don't know that, but we are surrounded by many deserts. It's beautiful to see the agave plant, and then this pistillo, this almost fallow shows up, and then these beautiful flowers come up and attracts the bats in the desert, and the birds and the bees and all these animals to do the pollination. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. But again, it's too late when this shows us, because then all the sugary inside of the plant goes up here, and it's not useful. This is when it's right, when the juices are in the center of the agave plant. Okay, so this is when it starts to get harvest, and this is some pictures of the oven from the top. Normally there are ovens that are in the ground. It's better to make the hole in the ground, and then you cover it with bricks, and you fill in from beneath. You make these holes to liberate the heat. You don't want it too heated, so you pile it up with wood, and then you take like 24 48 hours to make the burning and the correct temperature. Then you put in all the piñas, and once you have this done, this is a picture from the inside. It's a beautiful, beautiful and huge oven normally. So there's a lot of hearts going inside. And then you cover it, like in this picture. You cover it for, depending on the temperature and the heat of the oven, it can take 3-5 days, maybe a week, and then you are ready for the grinding with this beautiful antique machines where you do all this grinding and all the juice that shows up. And it's a beautiful process, and the juice is delicious. It's so sweet, and when the kids here like to steal all this, and the old men get really angry because this is really expensive, but but it's really tasty. All this, it's like cane sugar. It's really, really, really tasty. And then you separate all the basajo, all the bagazo from the liquid, and then you're ready for the fermentation. You pass all the liquid through these tunnels so that you can get all the yeast that you can, and then you put it in these huge spaces. This is how you can see it, the liquid when it starts the fermentation, and this is how it sees when it's with all the bubbling, and you can imagine if you have smelled the yeast when it's in the process, it smells horrible, but it looks very nice. And finally, the distillation process. That is also, I mean, it's not that fancy because you can't see it. If it was crystal, it would be very nice, but it's not crystal because it's huge and it doesn't support, but anyway. So let's go to the types of mezcal. Okay, so we have different types of mezcal. By the way the mezcal is produced, we have different categories, basically 5 different categories. We have young mezcales, we call it joven, or in the case of tequilas, we call it silver tequila. Maybe you are familiar with this name, silver. And it's a transparent mezcal. And when it's directly out of the alembic, of this process that I just mentioned, it is called a young mezcal. And then there's the aged mezcal. When you put the mezcal in oak barrels from 2 to 12 months. And then there's the extra aged. We call it also añejo, when it is put in the same barrels for more than 12 months. Sometimes these barrels are virgin barrels, but sometimes they have been already used. Normally, they are bought from Scotland. So you can imagine they are used for whiskey and then sent to Mexico. So sometimes there are mezcales that you taste them and you get the sensation that you're tasting an aged or an extra aged whiskey. And it comes obviously from this process. And then you have the avocado, that the direct translation is doomed, but I don't know, that sounds weird. So let's just call it avocado. And what this means, this type of mezcal, is when you put an external agent inside the bottle. Once you finish the process of the production of the mezcal and you put it inside the bottle, then you put inside some kind of agent. It can be a worm. Maybe you have heard of this. It can be a scorpion. It can be a little piece of wood or a plant that gives a different flavor of the mezcal once it's in the bottle. So this is called avocado. And maybe the doom thing is because the worm or the scorpion, once it's inside the bottle, well, inside the mezcal, it's doomed. And then there's a very interesting mezcal that is called pechuga, that means breast. And it also is related to an external agent, but this external agent, it's not put inside the bottle, but it is used in the distillation process. What does this mean? That when in the distillation process, we are in this moment where the vaporized process is taking on, you put this external agent. It can be a turkey or chicken breast. To be original to the recipe, it's a turkey breast, guajolote, we call it in Mexican Spanish. Or we can put some fruit or some spices or even some dish like rice. And then we let the vapors go through this dish. And this picks up the flavor of the breast. and gives the mezcal a totally different twist. It's very interesting to pick up the flavors of this pechuga. So these are the different types of mezcales according to how the mezcal is produced. Now we have mezcales by the different kind of agaves or the different kind of species of agaves. Personally, I recommend that if you're gonna make a tour of different kinds of mezcales, you do this kind of tour and not the one before, because you can find that the different kinds of species have totally different kind of flavors. So you have, I put two names on it because sometimes in the label of the mezcal, you're gonna find the scientific name, like for example, Americana, but sometimes you're gonna see the common name of the people, that is Arroqueño. Sometimes you're gonna see Agustifolia, or sometimes you're gonna see Espadín. Maybe 85% of the mezcales in Mexico are this Espadín. But there are also Cupriata that are from the state of Michoacán. You're going to find Duranguensis or Cenizo that is from the state of Durango. The Lechuguilla that is from the north part of Mexico as well. That is a beautiful mezcal. The Karvinsky, the Marmota or Tepestate that is almost extinct. I strongly recommend that you don't buy this one, but because it is not sustainable. The Tobalá that some people also say that is not sustainable, so you have to be very careful on buying Tobalás. The Rodacanto, the Salmiana, that is a beautiful and very tasty mezcal from the state of Guanajuato, or the Tequilana or Azul, that is, as you can guess, the tequila. The tequila is always made of the agave named Azul or Tequilana, or also called Weber. So these are the different species of agaves, and I strongly recommend if you want to go through the different flavors of the agaves, you go through this. And finally, you can also talk about the different kinds of agaves, of mezcales, by their apelación. Oops. Sorry for that. So the PowerPoint I use is very heavy, so once in a while that happens. So I have my PDF on the back, just in case, and this was the just in case. So by apelación, we have mezcales, but we also have raicillas, that is a different kind of mezcal in the north part of Mexico. We have sotoles that are basically from Chihuahua. We have the bacanora that are from the state of Sonora, and we have the tequila that are from the state of Jalisco, not only from the state of Jalisco, even though most people from Jalisco think that tequila are only from Jalisco, but there are other small parts of Mexico that are allowed to produce tequila as well. So I'm jumping into the final part of my presentation so that we have some minutes for Q&A. As I mentioned before, it is very important that the industry of mezcal has a social responsibility. And what this means is that in the industry of mezcal, there's a lot of responsible farming. There's a lot of sustainable farming. There's a lot of community involved so that it doesn't happen in the mezcal what happened in tequila many years ago. And what happened in tequila is that the production, thank you very much. What happened is that the production of the tequila distorted for the local communities the production, and suddenly nothing got to them, and everything got to the grand capital as it is named today. So next, please. We're in the final ones. This is the production of. We're going to go through these really fast. This is the production in the last 10 years or so of mezcal, and you can see it has been going up in the last years, but again in a sustainable way. Next, please. This is about exports. We are seeing that the demand of mezcal in the last years has going up, and this is a good thing, but we don't want it to go very up. We want it to be this process of going, but in a controlled way. Next one, please. The state of Oaxaca is the one that does mainly all the production, but little by little we have other states like Durango, like Guerrero. Michoacán has fabulous mezcal. Little by little they are starting to make some production. Puebla has been doing in the late years some very interesting mezcal production. Next, please. This is by type of agave. As I mentioned, Espadín produces almost 75% of all the mezcales that we know, and the ensambles, the combination of different species of mezcal, do close to 13%. Next one, please. This is the value, the share value of mezcales over the year that is going up as well. Next one, please. And the branding. We want to be also very careful about the branding of mezcal. So again, it doesn't happen what happened with tequila, that suddenly people don't realize that they're paying much more for the bottle and the branding than for the product. And obviously, mezcal producers do want to sell, and they understand that beautiful productions are part of the branding, but they don't want to put too much in the branding. Next one. So there are some nice bottles and some nice labeling, I would say. There are really nice things going out there, but not too expensive, so that the huge amount of money that is being paid for a mezcal goes to the quality of what you are drinking. Next one, please. Next one, please. I think we're going to the last one. Yeah, these are some other ones that you can find in internet. Nice bottles, but basically you're buying the quality of the product. Okay, so that is the presentation. And if we have some time, I'm not sure how we are on time. If we have some time for some Q&A, I'm here to answer what I can answer. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Enrique Tamez. It was wonderful presentation. Many things that we didn't know, and now we can apply. So thank you very much. There's a question. They say, can you harvest the same plant every year?
So the agaves are fascinating from a biological perspective. So the agave has two ways of reproducing itself. Okay. By pollination. So birds or bats come, they like a normal pollination, no? And they take the seeds away, so it grows somewhere else. But also by the seeds thrown by the own plant. and then it grows, the little babies are grown next to the plant. So it's very common that you see an agave and the little babies are around the agave growing there.
Yes.
So those two ways, and the ones that are near to the plant are clones. They are genetically identical to this one. So, and they don't need anybody else. So it's fascinating. So to answer the question, normally the farmers, what they do is they leave before they harvest, they assure that the plant has let the clones grow enough
itself.
So, exactly. So they show up.
Wow. Thank you so much. There's another question. They are asking, what kind of brands do you recommend?
I wouldn't recommend openly a brand because that's not my role. The only thing I would say is that unfortunately, there are some brands of mezcal that are being produced in an industrial way. And that is not what we want in the industry.
And how can we know that?
There's an easy tip for me to give to you. Don't buy the brands of mezcal that are in the airports. Don't buy those. If they're in the airport, surely they are from a mechanized, from an industrialized production. And I hope nobody gets mad of this. Don't buy your mezcal at Costco because it's the same deal.
Same as the airport.
Exactly. Airport or Costco, please don't buy it there. And if please, Jorge, can you put my phone number in the comments? And if anybody wants to ask me vis-a-vis some brand, I can recommend by personally, not openly.
Thank you, Enrique. And then they ask, are the plants farmed or do they grow in the wild?
So we have both types.
Okay.
Most of them can be farmed, but there are some that can't be farmed. For example, Tobalá. I haven't shown any of that. I'm surrounded by a lot of bottles in case I needed to show. The Tobalá one is not farmed. And there's the Sierra Negra.
Okay.
That is not farmed. So Tobaciche is not farmed. So please be very careful of buying these type of mezcales because they're not farmed. Farmers have to go very into the hills to find these types. We don't know exactly how many are left. Normally, the ones that are not farmed, that are in the wild, take more years to harvest, maybe 20, maybe 25 years. So we have to be very careful with these species. It's better to buy the ones that we can farm, all the rest. Or if you want to taste the wild ones, I recommend you do it in a blended way. For example, this one, where you can see that is espadín, but also has Tobalá. And this what means is that you get to taste the Tobalá flavor. And Tobalá is very strong. So you can get the taste, you can understand how the Tobalá tastes, but you're not putting the species in danger. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. Great, wonderful. I think Dr. Jorge Valdez has a question.
Can you read my mind? How you know that? my for so many years working with me, Yeah, I was going to ask about the number of distillations, Enrique. Some says it's one distillation, some other bottle says 2 or 3.
So again, I'm a little bit intimidated talking with you guys about chemistry, but as you know, distillation, what it means is that you need to boil to evaporate. But what you want to do is evaporate alcohol, not water. So you have to, and evaporate, when you evaporate alcohol, it's around 80 degrees and Celsius, and you evaporate water between at 100, okay? Well, depending about the temperature, so the altitude. So distillation, what means is that you're evaporating between 80, 85, something like that. You're heating between that so that the alcohols that are bad go away, but the alcohols that are good get enriched. So the more distillation that goes on, the more alcohol it has. So you don't want to get, I know that the branding today, the marketing says that, oh, this has 3 distillations. Oh, that's great. The real deal, that's not great. That's dangerous. Because if it's really 3 distillations, that means that could have 60 or 65 degrees of alcohol in the bottle. And that's not good. What you want is the minimum, I think it's 36 degrees. The high-end ones, it's 50, 52, maybe going up to 55, and that's it. So what you want is 1 distillation, well done, maybe 2 distillations, and that's it, Jorge. That's it. Anything when you see the marketing of, oh, 3 distillations, and 3 distillations, silver, and that's marketing mumbo jumbo. You don't want that. What you want is 1 well done, or maximum 2 well done, because if not, the number of pure alcohol goes up, and there's no sense of climbing it more than 50, 52, 50. That's the maximum, because if not, you just get drunk, and that's it. I mean, did I make myself clear?
Yes, sure. Yes, thank you so much. Is there any other question?
This one only have 1 distillation.
1 distillation. And how many grades does it have? Does it say?
If it's, yeah, it says 50. And it's a sotol, from 3 different varieties of sotol.
And that one, that's from Mezcaloteca, right?
Yeah, right.
And that one, Jorge, is those people are very serious. So they do a very well taking care distillation. And with 1, they already reach 50 degrees. Yeah. And it's 1. So imagine if they make 2 really well done, maybe you will jump to 60, and you don't want that. So no. Again, a lot of mumbo jumbo goes on with the number of distillations.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Enrique Tamez, for sharing your experience and this wonderful presentation. We hope
my pleasure.
You enjoy it. Yes. And also, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And well, and we have in the chat also so many thanks messages and also congratulations for you. So we are very proud that you were here with us sharing this expertise. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope to do this experience again in a live session. Hopefully.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you. Well, we have come to the end. On behalf of Tecnológico de Monterrey School of Medicine and Health Sciences, we thank you all for your participation. We hope you acquire a little bit experience about how to drink mezcal, and we invite you to the next year annual meeting of U21 Health Sciences Division. It will be hosted by Oakland, so everyone is invited. And please, everyone, take care. In our country, this evening, we proudly celebrate Mexico's independence. So have a great day, great afternoon, and great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dory. And I want to thank you, Margarita, because I think this is the last event that she will be here in the school. Although we have a proper farewell celebration, but I want to thank Margarita, take this opportunity. You have been here in the first one, and then in this second U21 event. Margarita, thank you so much for everything. I want to, that